there was a rat that had gotten in the sewer line and chewed through the black pipe without any trouble. Yeah. So, well, how are you doing there, Todd? What's this week bringing for you? Or
Cold.
day? How you been?
Cold.
Cold. Yeah, here in Chicago area. What
Yes.
has it been negative?
Yes. Yes. It was a
Yeah.
high of 8 today.
Really?
Yeah. The low was a -3, and then it feels
Ugh.
like, which is the important number, right? Feels like -23. It's
What?
freaking cold. Yeah. It's like to walk outside your house and that cold just permeates through all your clothes, and then like the hair in your nostrils freezes immediately. It's that kind of cold.
I do not miss that. I do not miss that at all.
I don't blame you.
No, thank you. No, thank you.
Yeah.
Besides
Got
the
really good
weather.
at soup.
Soup, yeah. Yeah.
Perfecting my chicken soup over the terrible.
Why is it that soup just tastes so much better when it's freezing outside? Soup is just perfect outside.
Just something comforting about it.
When it's so cold outside.
Yeah.
Well, other than the weather, everything else going good?
Yeah. Other than the weather, we're good.
Good. I had a little freak out today. We had some special tile ordered from Texas come in today, and it on the website, it looks black and white on the website. It's marble, so it's supposed to be like black marble and white marble, and we all know that marble has all kinds of variations, right?
Showed up brown?
Well, it didn't show up brown, but as I was the guy out of the truck, right? The delivery guy, he's pulling the boxes to the end of the truck, and one of the boxes has like a square cut out in the front so you can see it, and I'm looking at him like that's not black. Like that's not even close to, like that's not even the neighborhood of black. And I was like, oh man. And so I freaked out and I was like, don't even take it off the truck. Like hold the phone. And this is just a delivery guy. Like he doesn't care. He's just like,
of course.
Yeah. Right. And I said, well, look, I was like, man, just give me 3 minutes. I promise. Just give me 3 minutes before we do anything. He's like, fine. So I run back, I run on my phone, I pull up the website just to quadruple check myself that I wasn't rethinking, like the colors were off or something. And sure enough, it was black and white on the screen. And I had forgotten, and this is how long, this has been 2.5 years of this project in design. So I had forgotten that we ordered like samples. So I had forgotten that I had done this years ago already. Like we ordered samples, we got the okay, everything. I had totally forgotten the samples and everything. And I was just simply going off of what I remember seeing when I ordered, right? Which is what was on the website. So this is on me. But I'm freaking out. All right. So I call the client and I send her a picture of the tile. And the client was like, oh, yeah, no, like we ordered a sample of that. I have that right here. Like this, perfect, great, like looks great. And I was like, okay, awesome. I'm just freaking out because, I'm now old and can't remember yesterday.
Right.
But
CRS.
Okay, cool, great, thank you. Moving forward, awesome. But I had a little anxiety attack there about the color of tile. And I was just so you know, it came out, it is nowhere near black. It is gray. Like there's not a hint of black anywhere on the thing. It's all gray, and it's variations of gray. And there's even white marbling, like crack lines and stuff through it. That's more white. There's no black, none whatsoever. But homeowner liked it. It came out the way they wanted it. So
Crisis averted.
why I was freaking out. So it all
Because you
worked
ordered
out, and I was like, phew.
I'm sure it wasn't cheap tile, so yeah, you're rightfully freaking out if you're going to get some, wrong shipment of tile in and have that conversation with your
Yeah,
vendor.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like that close to calling the vendor
Mm-hmm.
and just be like, look, your website's nothing. I was like, you know what? Nope. I'm going to check with the homeowner just to make sure, see if she's okay with it. Right. Because we're going for rustic, old, like we want it to look like it's been there for 100 years already. Right. So she loved it anyways.
Okay.
So I had
Customer
that.
likes it.
And yeah, customer likes it. And then just not a good day today. I have had this little hobby of mine on the side. I've been building a computer, and I've been building it for the last couple weeks now. And I finally got to the point where I was going to plug it in. Plugged it in, and it doesn't recognize the CPU, which is not good. Which is not good. Like that's major problem. And I didn't have the time nor the patience to even start going down the troubleshooting of that. But I'm nervous and whatever. So
Yeah, that doesn't sound fun. I think I mentioned that
no,
before, and you said you were building a computer, and I said it doesn't sound fun. I stick
you
by my
did.
original statement. That does not sound fun at all. Yeah.
No,
I thought you were going to say you
not at
forgot
all.
to put a plug on the computer and you couldn't plug it in. I thought you were going to say that because that's something I would do. Like, shit, I didn't even put a plug on this
Forgot.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know what I'm going to do there. I'm stressing out about that, but whatever. So, well, here we go again. And another week of the Renovation Situation podcast, where we pull back those complicated layers of this remodeling industry. So grab your beverage of choice. My name's Joe, and I am drinking Takamine Old Fashioned. So Takamine is a whiskey, a Japanese whiskey. I'm kind of big into that lately. What are you drinking over there? What do you got today?
Oh, I got the good old Kentucky bourbon. I got me a Maker's Mark on the rocks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're staying true to yourself. You had Makers last week.
Yeah. I like my Kentucky bourbons. Plus, I go there a couple times a year. I just kind of stock up. Anyway,
Nice.
while we're enjoying these cocktails, I think we are going to keep going on our 101 series and getting into plumbing 101 today. So we had a couple little things on the checklist as an overview of just kind of some regional differences as far as how we do our plumbing work and what to look for when you're on a remodeling project, when you're the contractor running that project, and some things of that nature. So I don't know if we wanted to start anywhere in particular, but for me, I always tell my guys, general rule of thumb, first and foremost, you're walking into a remodeling project. Before you even start remodeling, where's the water main? Know where that water main is. In the event anything happens, you're not running around like a chicken with his head cut off looking for the water main. You know where that is. You can run and immediately shut that off and then rectify whatever you need to rectify.
Very good. Yes, that's actually we should have talked about that a little bit in the pre-construction. We do that a little bit in the pre-construction. Yeah, find out where the water main shutoff is. Yeah, for sure. Good. Where I start right off the bat when we're talking about plumbing when we're there is making sure that we have all the plumbing fixtures on site. So this has been a little bit of a sticky situation for us because I go back and forth. Sometimes I buy all of the plumbing fixtures for the project, and then sometimes the plumber buys all the plumbing fixtures for the project. It's bouncing back and forth at the moment. I prefer my plumber to purchase all the plumbing fixtures. They tend to warranty them. I don't have to deal with that. They I like them ordering all the plumbing fixtures also because I expect them to double, triple, quadruple check to make sure that that rough-in valve is going to work with that particular trim out
That trim.
valve.
Yep.
And yeah, all the things. And if we have, you know, if we're building a car wash and we have 14, outlets, I want to make sure that, we're thinking all this through and that they're all going to work, and we have diverters and that diverter is going to work with that valve and all that fun stuff, right?
Mhm.
Because it gets tricky when it gets complicated. It gets really tricky, and you want to make sure that everything's going to work together. And
Mhm.
it doesn't always. Matter of fact, it more often does not work together than when it does. Because I've had more than my share of ready to put everything together and it doesn't fit. So I like to have that redundancy where I'm not the only one checking this stuff, right? Because I'm not a plumber per se. So just because I picked all the stuff out, or the designer picked all the stuff out, right? So the designer picks all the stuff out because it's pretty, and then I have to make sure that all the things are going to work together. But then I want somebody to be checking what I'm looking at. So
Mhm.
that's why I want the plumber to get involved. A lot of times, if I'm buying all the plumbing fixtures, the plumber doesn't care nor wants to be involved. And that's where I don't understand. I have these conversations with the plumbers, and I have to tell them that it's literally in your best interest and will save you money if you look over this stuff ahead of time before I order everything.
Mhm.
Because when you send your guys over here and it doesn't fit, guess what? Now I've screwed up your schedule and now I'm costing you money. So work with me here. Help me
Yeah.
help you, kind of thing, right?
Sure. So
So
are you typically buying these from a showroom, from a plumbing, supply house, or where are you typically doing your shop?
plumbing supply house usually.
Okay. And that's the reason I ask. If you're doing that, do you not feel like you're not getting a good checks and balances out of your supply house, where they're going to say, yes, you need this, this, this? You do not
Nope,
feel like you're getting that? Okay.
I don't
Okay.
get that.
Okay.
They they're
They're just filling orders.
they're just filling orders. They don't give a crap. Yep. Also, it depends on where the designer has taken my client. So, if there was a significant amount of time, effort spent at a particular plumbing supply house's showroom, then I will feel obligated, and rightfully so, to go and maybe purchase all those plumbing fixtures through that supply house. So, if you went to X, Y, and Z supply house and they went to their showroom because they have a really nice showroom, right? So somebody there, some salesman, somebody there is helping my designer and helping my client pick out all these things,
Mm-hmm.
right? I want to build that relationship with that salesperson and then order everything through them. We didn't spend a whole lot of time at showrooms, and we're mostly just picking things out via websites and stuff like that. Then I'm going to just my supply house and just purchasing through the supply house. Where now, regardless of who's buying the materials, I want to have all of the plumbing fixtures ordered and on the job site at time of rough-in. And that's because a lot of times when we're designing on paper, it's going to fit. And then all of a sudden we have this big giant trim ring or something that maybe might be too close to something else. And we want to be able to have that trim ring in our hands and hold it up and visualize where the rod's going to go, or how close to the corner are we going to get, or where is the niche going to go, and do we have enough room to fit everything we want to fit. So I want everything on site. Now the plumbers don't like that when they're providing all the material. I've gotten a lot of pushback on this, because I don't think they order enough. I don't think they order everything ahead of time, so they don't always have all the things. So I had to work with them on saying, okay, come on, let's plan a little bit better ahead and just order everything ahead of time so you're ready to go. So at rough-in, you can just bring everything. And they're like, well, we don't want to bring everything. Why? Another reason they've told me is that they
What if they don't
feel
get
as
paid?
though I have no problem paying. Like, that's the other
No, not
thing.
you,
It's
but
not a
like for them, it might be standard practice because the potential, a client may not want to pay them if they had an issue and say, hey, we have all the plumbing
Yeah,
fixtures in our garage,
maybe,
thousands of dollars of plumbing fixtures in our garage, and let's just fire the plumber and then good luck getting your stuff back that you already paid for. You know what I mean?
maybe.
Maybe. Just a thought.
But here's their complaint is, which is totally a legit complaint, is in their experiences, if they leave the boxes there, then inevitably somebody's going through those boxes and then a screw or a nut or a trim ring or something is lost when they come to put it all in. I totally get it, especially if there's months between rough in and trim out, which is often the case on my projects. And so I have gone as far as, okay, like I'll put stickers. So I like created stickers with like, my logo and like, or the plumbing logo or whatever on them. And I'm like walking around and I got all like a sheet of stickers and I'm like, going through every plumbing box and I'll put a sticker over it to show that it hasn't been opened. Or if it has been opened, then the sticker was, monkeyed around with, right?
Yeah, tampered with. Right.
So we've done that. I've had conversations with homeowners that like, you can't go through the stuff. It's like, that's kind of sticky because they bought the stuff and it's there. They want to see it.
They want to see it. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I totally understand from their point of view, but I'm not giving in. I want all the plumbing fixtures on the job site for all the reasons that I said and more. And so for me, that's my number one on my plumbing checklist is I want to have all of the fixtures on site at time of rough in.
Okay.
And for the most part, I've gotten my way and all the plumbers are like, sure, fine, whatever. That was back then. At the moment right now, I'm purchasing all the plumbing fixtures because there's just been too many mistakes. I don't know where the breakdown is in communication, but I give you a list to order. We've gone over this list a billion times, and yet something on the list either didn't get ordered or is the wrong thing or the wrong finish. There's just not enough detail. So not enough check and balances on their end.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't afford the mistakes. So I end up taking it over myself. And that's where I'm at the moment.
Okay. Yeah.
So
I like it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. In terms of just process, if you're the GC, you're running a remodeling project. Just a couple of notes that I know we wanted to touch on. Where one thing is just number one, plumber always goes first in terms of once you start rebuilding things. It's the plumber's show before you get your HVAC guy in there, before you get your electrician in there. Toilets have to be in a certain spot. Drains need a certain pitch. Like those don't get like, just move this toilet over 6 inches or the next joist space over or whatever it is. Like, nope. Plumbers go first. At least that's what I was always taught.
Yeah, I agree to a certain extent. Definitely plumbers before electricians. 110.
Electricians are always next. We're running 1/2-inch conduit. No one cares. You can fit that anywhere.
Yeah. Well, they care. And they will make sure that they'll cut through everything. Yeah. There.
We're going to rip on electricians a lot on this show. So
yeah, we are. We have no electricians listening to our show, I'm sure. Or no longer listening to our show.
Right. So the electricians last. That's click.
So I definitely will choose electrician and ask the electrician or the plumber. I will definitely want the plumber to come in first. 100%. I always schedule them first. Now, however, I think it kind of depends on how complicated your HVAC is going to be. So if you need to plan ahead for this stuff, if you have big plenums and they're taking up a lot of space, those things are huge. And often there's only one place you can put that. And you have to plan around and maybe you have to build a soffit and all that for that stuff. So HVAC needs to be planned out ahead of time if you're not going to let the HVAC in first, just to make sure that the plumber's not running down that path. right? So I will often bring HVAC in for that reason. But if we're talking about, which most of the time when we're doing remodels, we're not monkeying around with the big giant plenums, they're already there. So no, yeah, HVAC's later, right?
So a note on that, I would say, to your point, if you're doing a bigger project and you have full architectural plans, you should have mechanical drawings on there anyway.
For sure.
In which case,
Well, you should.
everyone knows where they're running things, and really, it shouldn't matter that much if HVAC or plumber is there first. That should all be mapped out. Granted, that's not always perfect because an architect drew it, right? They're human too, and they're sitting in an office drawing that, and that doesn't always work out 100% either. There's always job site issues. But, I was always told the plumbers first, because that you're not going to move where that toilet's going. You're not going to move the way that drain's pitched. An HVAC supply, if I need to bump that over to a different wall or return to a different wall or different joist space or stud space, then typically you can do that. You usually have a little more room for modifications with that stuff than you do for plumbing. In any event, just don't bring the electrician in. That's all. On another note, just because we're talking primarily remodeling here, right? This is a renovation. So if you're doing a kitchen, if you're doing even bathroom, whatever it might be, it's always just standard practice to replace those angle stops for your faucets, for your dishwasher, for whatever it might be, for your toilet. Just replace the angle stops. They're super cheap. You're doing all this renovation anyway. And if you're doing something where those angle stops, those water supply lines are coming up into a cabinet, there's a nice angle stop. Yeah. It's nice sweat on angle stop with probably a quarter turn valve on it and a compression on the top. So another reason you want to do that, you're gonna cut your copper pipes, have your plumber come in when you're doing kind of your deconstruction and your demo work. Get rid of those existing angle stops, cap those water lines, and that's going to give you much cleaner installs for your cabinets. That way you're just drilling a 5/8 or 3/4 inch diameter hole to place over your water supply lines, and then they're going to put new stuff right back on it. So you're not cutting this big giant hole around that angle stop and then just saying, oh, well, there's a big hole in the cabinet, big deal, or covering it with some aftermarket slip escutcheon that doesn't look good. It's
Totally
the little
true.
things. It's the details that matter.
It does matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I say copper pipe because where I'm at, those water supply lines better be copper lines instead of
yes. Okay.
CPVC.
Well, let's CPVC. Yes. Well, let's talk about that for a minute, because your supply lines in your house, they could be copper, they could be PEX, and unfortunately, they may be able to be CPVC. They should not be, but they could. But PEX is the plastic pipe looking red and blue and white up on the top of the screen, and then copper's down at the bottom there. You won't see any PEX in Chicagoland area because it's not allowed. You can thank all your unions for that. One time what?
I saw it one time. I've only seen PEX one time.
Really?
And that was in Berwyn. And I don't know if it was, supposedly it was allowed according to the plumber, but that's the only time I've ever seen PEX in the Chicago.
Only in Cook County. Once you get out of Cook County, you're allowed, I believe.
I don't know if that's Cook County or not. I would think it would be Cook County, Berwyn. But anyway, only time I've ever seen it. And I was amazed at how sloppy of an install it was. There was just that stuff. It looked like a little kid was doing plumbing. There was just
it does
red and blue plastic lines hanging all over the place. It looked like a little kid was doing it.
Look, there's nothing wrong with PEX, and the rest of the country does PEX. We only do PEX out here. Now, there is copper here. You can use copper. There's no reason why you can't, but PEX is the preferred for multiple reasons. I don't want to really get into all that, but PEX is preferred out here. We run PEX. It does look like a child put it together if you can't convince your plumbers to put a little pride into their work. So you just have to find the right plumbers. I have this plumber, and I told him, okay, so my previous plumber, they just ran the stuff willy-nilly wherever, and it's all just like in the walls and wherever, and it doesn't really matter, but let's just put a little bit of pride. I know it's going to get covered up. So my next plumber, I told him, I said, look, can we just run lines like level? Can we put a little bit more like emphasis on making it look pretty? You know, if you're going to do something, do it well, do it to the best of your ability. I know it's going to get and covered up, but come on, like let's just let's have a little pride, right? And
Okay.
he's like, yeah, no problem. I love it. I was like, really? He's like, yeah, no problem. So the next job he does for me, he went out and bought a laser. Like this guy's after my own heart. He went out, got a laser, set it up, and he's running all of his, all of the PEX lines and everything are all laser lined. And I was like,
Wow.
nice, man. That's what we're talking about. That's what
Yeah.
we're talking about having a bunch of pride in doing it and doing it well.
Nice.
So loved it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
So PEX
So-
is, I mean, it's a plastic. Yes, it's a thick walled plastic essentially.
PEX and copper, and we're not even going to talk about the other one because that you see a lot in like trailers.
The CPVC.
But we'll just
I've seen it.
How about-
I've seen it in
I know,
$500,000, $600,000 homes, $800,000 homes.
Why don't you tell them about that kitchen remodel we did with the?
Yeah. So again, like you had mentioned earlier, if you're out of the city, if you're out of Chicago, which is where we're far west suburbs, it's actually fairly common to use CPVC for water supply lines. And it's a crap product, if you ask me. It's not good to drink your water out of. It's not good to have your drinking water running through that. It's just it's horribly cheap. It's everything. The connections on it are just a typical CPVC glue, much akin to a PVC glue, but it is different. It is a CPVC glue, but it's still just that little, brush inside the bottle, rub it on and stick them together, and that's it. And we were on a project. We were doing a kitchen remodel years ago now, but I forgot what we were taking apart in the kitchen on the first floor, but we were either drilling through a stud or maybe cutting something out. Whatever it was, maybe we were using a Sawzall and there was just vibration from it. And thank God, because those people weren't even there, they were on vacation. Thank God, for whatever reason, we walked down into the basement after that. And again, thank God they had an unfinished basement, but there was just a T of that CPVC in the basement, and whatever vibration we caused was enough to break that joint and just have a half-inch water supply line shooting water out in their basement. So, thank God.
And we don't know how long it was doing.
That could have been like that for days. I mean, they could have had 3 feet of water in their basement by the time we went down there,
Yeah, we had
Awful.
no idea that was leaking or how long it was leaking. Yeah.
Yeah. So do not
Brutal.
use CPVC. Don't use it. It's builder grade crap, and that's builders who don't care. Builder grade crap. Yeah.
Ugh.
So for us, it's always copper.
Yeah, that was crazy. I couldn't.
What's that? I missed you for a second.
I just couldn't believe that we didn't know how long like that was happening. How long that was leaking down there. Yeah, that's the crazy part.
And I don't even remember why we walked downstairs, but yeah, wild.
I don't either, but thank God we did. Yeah. Brother.
Oh.
Yeah.
So we're always, I'm 100% copper.
While we're on the,
For us, it's 100%.
Agreed. While we're on the copper and PEX stuff, I wanted to touch base on whether we put it in the walls on exterior walls or not. Because I try to make sure we don't do that out here. And I had gotten a lot of pushback when I first moved out here. It didn't seem to be a big deal to everybody out here to put supply lines and exterior walls out here because it doesn't seem to get that cold very often. However, every winter out here, it's inevitable. We always hear a few pipes freezing. So I don't know why I have to have this conversation. And I think it's getting easier and easier every year because the winters are getting weirder and weirder and more extreme. Now we're near extreme as the Midwest, but still, So now when I speak to designers and stuff like that, we are now, everybody knows that Joe doesn't like to put stuff in the exterior walls. So we try our best, absolute best, to keep it out of the exterior walls for that reason. And that's just, we just design for that. Why? Because we can think ahead and we can design for the future, because I want my stuff to last years, not just until the next remodel. Like if climate change is happening and things are getting worse every year, then let's plan for that. We're going to build our best. So that's what we do.
Good.
And once we have that conversation with the homeowners, they're cool with it. And yeah, we just design around it and it's great. Yeah. So keep it out of the exterior walls, everybody.
Oh, good God.
That's including your niches too, by the way.
Absolutely.
You want your shampoo to freeze? Another crazy thing that's different between the Midwest and the West Coast here is our drains. So it was crazy when I moved out here that all the drains in everybody's houses were black, and I'm used to seeing white. And by that, I mean ABS versus PVC, Schedule 40. And it was just really odd for me to wrap my brain around the fact that we're not using PVC, which the difference really is the white is the PVC, is Schedule 40. It's just really thick. It's thick walled compared to the black pipe that is very thin. So I'll give you an example, an extreme example of why I like PVC, this is really odd one, but there was a rat that had gotten in the sewer line and chewed through the black pipe without any trouble. Now, I imagine that the rat could do that with PVC if they wanted, but I would have to imagine it would be 3-4 times as difficult for them to get through the white stuff.
Yeah.
So there's an example. Not that we all should be worrying about rats in our...
They'd have to take a nap.
Yeah.
Call a friend for help. Yeah. Yeah.
Also,
See,
noise.
If you say black pipe to me, I'm thinking cast iron. You said, black. First, I was going to say black pipe.
I know you
assume gas pipe, actually. But that to me, that black pipe is gas line, or if you're talking about drains and saying a black pipe, it's a cast iron stack you're looking at. Yeah.
Right.
Without a doubt.
Right. Nope, not out here. It's ABS.
That doesn't even exist out here.
And you cannot glue them together. So just
you can't glue them together. What do you do? Clamp them?
Crazy.
How do you fold them together?
You can clamp them. You just can't. Well, the glue won't stick eventually. So it'll feel like it sticks in the beginning, and you'll think that it's stuck and all that fun stuff. And then weeks, months down the road, it pops apart. It doesn't hold. So if you got black, stick with black. If you got white, stick with white. PVC, stick with the PVC. Got ABS, then stick with ABS. Yeah. Now you could do a mission coupling, something like that. And I don't know enough. There might be a glue that's good for both of them, but I would not. Just best practices. Don't mix. Don't cross the streams.
Sure.
Pun intended. Okay.
Noted.
Crazy. What else you got? Shut off valves we talked about. We're always replacing those.
Yeah. So a typical.
Another
typical remodel.
101 we could talk about.
Is it just standard practice for us? Like it used to be these older homes all have galvanized supply lines, and they usually give those supply lines about a 60-year to 70-year lifespan because they get so full of sediment and stuff that, you end up having just awful water pressures, the size of a pinhole getting through there. So it's always standard for us to take as much of that galvanized line as you can access, take that out and institute copper from there up to your new point. Unless someone wants to go to the extent of repiping their whole house, but usually we're just going to get as far back as we can. But if you're going from a galvanized line to a copper line, what do you need from a galvanized line to a copper line? Joe, see if you remember. You've been in Seattle for a while.
You need a dielectric union.
There it is. He
Yeah.
still remembers. Good. Yes, you do. Key.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
Union.
yes. Otherwise, you get galvanic reaction and essentially start to burn a hole in your copper line, your brand new pristine copper line.
Yes, you do. They will start Yeah, they will. They will start reacting pretty quickly, and you don't know how long it's going to take. Sometimes it'll last forever. Sometimes it'll rot out in months. And I had an example of when I didn't use dielectric union back in the beginning because I didn't actually know that you needed something in between the two different metals at the time. And so I had done this galvanized pipe, connected to copper, and it ended up, I went back to that house because it was leaking. Geez, it was less than a year. And it was corroded already to the point where that union just broke apart.
Oof.
So it can happen pretty quick. So make sure if you're going to have two different metals, I mean, assuming we all know that galvanized pipes, let's just get rid of it. It corrodes from the inside. So you'll never know how corroded it is from the outside. It looks great. Mm-hmm. And what it's doing is it's rotting from the inside. And all that corrosion is just making the hole smaller and smaller and smaller. So your water pressure is going to be worse. All the little pieces of rust are going to get pushed through and clog up all of your angle stops and your faucets, and it's just going to clog everything up, make a mess down the road. Whenever you see galvanized pipe, if you have it, do your best to try to eliminate it. That's why whenever we see it when we're remodeling, it's just, okay, well, we try to plan ahead and look for it. And if we know we have it, then we put it in the budget, we put it in the plan that we're going to replace it. But if we don't know and we open up a wall and all of a sudden we see it, now's the time. Like, don't hide it. Just, hey, educate your client and tell them that now's the time for a change order.
Yep.
Unfortunately. Absolutely. But let's clean it up because it's going to cause a lot of trouble down the road.
Yeah. And that's a good point. Like you said, you're
going to
look at that line from the outside and say, yeah, it looks fine. That's a solid pipe, but take a Sawzall right across that and see what that looks like on the inside. And you see just caked on layers of just rust and iron rich oxidation in there. That's just, like you said, you're lucky if you can.
Yep.
Lucky if you can get a decent amount of water.
Not good.
Through there. Yeah.
Yeah. Not good. Yeah. Not good. However, what you could use in between the two metals is brass. Brass is good. Brass you can use as a dielectric union. You can plug galvanized into brass on one end and copper into brass on the other end, and you should be all good.
Yes. Good point.
Well, how'd we do, everybody? Plumbing 101. There's all kinds of things we can go into. Your toilet dimensions and rough-ins about that. But I think, just as you guys could Google that, pay attention to make sure that you have the right clearances for your toilet. 15 inches from the center to the wall on the sides, 12 in the back. And then bathtubs, faucets, all the things. And I think you have a special one. What's your pet peeve with left and right? Don't want to steal your thunder.
I was just always taught that hot water is always on the left. And I think that's just a standard. Yes. I don't know if that's just standard practice for plumbers, so they kind of know how they're running everything and the next plumber knows, or if there's actual code to that. I've certainly never had an inspector check that on any of my projects, I don't think. That's not saying much. I've had plenty of inspectors that have never checked a whole bunch of things on projects. So I'm not sure why that is. I've just always been told hot water is always on the left.
I'm pretty sure that it's code that it has to be on the left. And I think it's a safety thing
Yeah.
that it should be on the left. But anybody out there could chime in and comment below and let us know if we're on the right track. But I think it is code. Even if it's not code, it probably should be code. But yes, plumbing on the left. And I'll tell you what, how often that gets switched and flipped around all the time. So you could go around as a project manager and just quadruple check to make sure that the hot's on the left. Yeah, for sure.
And I mean, I suppose it makes sense if you were to think it through just logically. If you're doing a typical shower valve rough-in and you're going to tie in that valve and you have your hot water on the left, you're going to, you're turning your thermostatic valve that way when you're turning your shower on. So you want to make sure that reads properly, right? Like you're turning it to the hot. You want to make sure hot water is coming out of there. So maybe it stems from that. I don't know. I mean, faucets can easily change because you're just connecting a braided water line. You can run that from either side in the sink or in the sink base.
Maybe.
But maybe that's what it stems from. I'm not really sure. But just found it, again, something I always just tell any of my guys, hot water is always on the left.
Yeah. Yep. Well, I think that's a good spot to end it. Keep it on the left. Hot, that is.
Hot
All right, everybody. Hope we made it through. Hope this wasn't too boring for you. Cheers.
Cheers.